I don't know who you are, but you're a real dead ringer for love. A real dead ringer for love.
Neil, we can never recreate that magic moment. We can never recreate it.
Meters passed away, but we can dedicate that. So if I'm going to do this again, I'm going to be livid.
Neil, you have to go again.
Okay, now.
Neil, we haven't on winding you up alive.
Oh, amazing. Absolutely amazing. It's right, Andy. Liverpool are on the way to Wembley. Dead ringer for love is going out to Diogo Jota. Absolutely the business yesterday. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking to Nick Pettigrew as well as part of the podcast. I've been talking to Kevin Day about Crystal Palace. We've got Crystal Palace chat to come to. But first and foremost, Gareth Roberts. Liverpool go to Arsenal. They get put under pressure for 10 minutes and then they absolutely boss the gaff. It is a fantastic Liverpool performance and it is a defining Liverpool performance for Diogo Jota, who scores one of the great Liverpool semi-final goals, one of the great Liverpool goals you'll see in your whole life. And Liverpool have got an opportunity to get some silverware in the cabinet before it turns March.
It's fantastic, wasn't it? I mean, look, it looked like all the cards were falling for Arsenal, for all being honest. I mean, you know, there's a lot of nonsense from some of their fans online, especially, etc., about, you know, the first leg being cancelled and all the rest of it. But look, you know, the life that I grew up in, if you've got the second leg at home of a semi-final, yes, that's an advantage. And we gave up that advantage. And, you know, the 0-0 was awful at Anfield. We were all on their backs. They were on their own backs. There was a lot of talking up of Arsenal. And look, you know, they were surely bouncing in that Arsenal dressing room before the game, saying, this is our big chance. We've got a big ground, full ground. The crowds are up for it. We think we got the job done first leg. Let's go out there. Let's score a goal. It's not Liverpool's full team. They've got the two lads missing at AFCON. All of that. So, you know, they would have been bouncing. And look, that side that they ended up putting out was all right, wasn't it? Funny, that. And as you say, Neil, they come out the blocks. You know, I was a little bit worried how Liverpool started. And, you know, there's an absolutely brilliant save from Kelleher from Lacazette's free kick. And then it slowly starts to turn in Liverpool's favour. We get the goal. You can say it's a little bit lucky in terms of it's a scuff finish, but it's not lucky the way he drifts past 3 or 4 players and how good he is at running on the ball. He does mean to put it that way. Yeah. It slightly deceives the keeper the way he hits it, but who's asked? It was great. And then from there on in, we controlled the game. We bossed the game, as you say. And then the second one's brilliant. The second one's an absolutely superb, world-class finish from Jota. And what a buy he is. I mean, you know, there's different figures, 41 million, 45 million, whatever it is. I'm just amazed now looking back at it that we got the free run on him because he's that good. And, you know, I was saying last night when we were doing stuff that, you know, I can remember being with you, Neil, and, you know, we like the deal happened and it was like, oh, hello, where's that come from? and, you know, we were all a bit like, Diogo Jota, yeah, sound, he looks all right, I think. And then, you know, you don't expect him to maybe be this good. And, you know, it's 14 this season. He got 13 in the whole of last season. There's still 4 months to play. There's a cup final to come. There's 17 league games. There's the Champions League. There's the FA Cup. You know, the lad can get 20-odd goals this season easily. Oh, yeah. And he's doing, you know, his performance yesterday and Liverpool's performance yesterday is without the best player in the world in Mo Salah, is without Mane. You know, and it was absolutely superb. It was a real mood lifter for everyone involved, I reckon. I mean, you know, it was great to hear Klopp saying that it was absolutely buzzing in the dressing room afterwards because I imagine so. Tell you what, it was good in my living room.
The key thing here is, I think, Siobhan, it was buzzing with their fans at Anfield last week. They celebrated hanging on there with the 0-0 down to 10. You know, and fair play to them. You know, it happens in football, that sort of thing. Their players, I thought, were giving it a bit of a big one. And then from there, for it to go the way it goes for them, where the first 15 minutes of the second half, Liverpool should make it 2. Like, you're beginning to wonder if there's actually a sting in the tail, because Liverpool have been that much better than them, and they haven't put it to bed yet. And that's suddenly the gulfing clash. You know, the longer the game wore on, the greater the gulfing clash became. And, you know, in the end, Liverpool, I don't think Arsenal managed to have more than 6 shots across two lots of 90 minutes, across 180 minutes of football. They could barely land a glove on Liverpool, and we know the red card plays a part in that. But they just couldn't get near Liverpool, and that's the gulf between these two sides at the minute. And Liverpool show it last night without Salah, without Mane, without Thiago, without Keita, without a couple of others as well. They showed that gulf in class.
Absolutely, and thinking back to last week, I don't think anyone left that ground that happy except for the Arsenal fans, and they were singing, we're going to Wembley, we're going to Wembley. I mean, which on reflection and indeed in the moment felt a little bit unwise, but and going in today, they had every right to be bouncing. They were well rested, question marks around that, as Gareth said, and they start the game so well, and I was really, really worried. And I said this after Shrewsbury, that as soon as we scored, it was the game you'd expected it, that we all knew it could be and that it should be. And I don't know what they were thinking bringing Thomas Partey on for that little cameo that he did. That lad got off a plane at midday. Have you seen the pictures of him on the bench? He's got worse bags than me, and he's just looking at us and saying, "Please don't do this to me. I'm gonna mess it up. Don't do this to me." And sure enough, some of the small little bits of behaviour out of their players as well. I thought there was a couple of moody tackles. I thought there was a bit of attitude in there from a couple of their lads that they definitely thought they were had the upper hand going into the game. Obviously, the before and afters of Ben White after his smile when Minamino missed, and then his face when Jota puts the second one in is beautiful. But I thought as soon as we scored, that golfing class was dead obvious, because I don't think they did anything of note after that, did they really? I think I didn't feel in any way, shape or form nervous. Second half probably started a little bit slowly, but I think the pattern was really obvious minutes into the game, and I wasn't even slightly nervous after that first goal. And I just thought, this is how it should have been last week, and I'm made up that it's, in a way, it's almost sweeter that it's the away leg that we should have had at home and blah blah blah, where we show our pure dominance and that we proper turn the screw and take the opportunities that we didn't take a week ago.
There's big performances all over the pitch, Mo. There's ones that you expect from players who've been there and won semi-finals for Liverpool, won big games for Liverpool in the past. I think Firmino's excellent throughout the game, from start to finish. I think Trent's excellent throughout the game from start to finish. For me, it's the lads who've not quite had that opportunity for whatever reason thus far who stand out. Jota, the obvious one, and by all means, let's wax lyrical further about him. But also Curtis Jones, I think, has a really influential game. He looks after the ball beautifully. He brings people into play. His positional work's tremendous. There's a point in the first half when Van Dijk goes wandering and goes missing and loses the ball, and Jones is slotted into play centre half. And it stems the flow of any sort of counter attack from Arsenal. There's two tremendous performances there on the big stage for lads who haven't had the opportunity to do it on the big stage yet for Liverpool.
They haven't, and I think for Curtis is really important because he can say he was the difference between the first and second legs, because we all thought that midfield structure setup wasn't right in the first leg, and it meant that we couldn't really turn it on when we needed to when they had less players. He came in and showed exactly what we were missing, and I thought it was really intelligent performance, not just, as you say, in terms of filling in, but there were a couple of things that he did early on that he didn't get right, and you could almost see him learning on the fly as we go and making different decisions and pulling Arsenal players different places and giving them different problems. But I want to circle back to something you were talking before about the Arsenal celebrations at the end of the first leg, because see, that said to me that we are still the big team. Like, there's been lots of talk this season about Arsenal and how they are now starting to compete with these bigger teams. They're starting to feel a little bit more confident against these bigger teams. Right. Flip it the other way. We're away in the first leg and we draw 0-0 down to 10 men. Are we celebrating like that? No, we're not. We know that the second leg is the leg that decides everything. The big team turns up in the second leg, whichever venue is decided to be played at. And that's exactly what happened. And you could tell the fact that they were so celebratory at Anfield meant that they weren't really expecting it. So that means that they weren't really expecting to be able to defend their homestead either. And you saw that in the way that they reacted to that first goal, because Siobhan's spot on. All of their enthusiasm, all of their belief seemed to seep away in that one moment. And Liverpool were like, we know this team. We can play with this team. And the only nerves that came after that were from the point when Liverpool were missing chances. Like there was a couple of times when Liverpool missed good chances. Obviously, the Kai Gordon chance and the one where Konate hits the post. And you think it's 1-0 in a big game, you could live to regret those. But then you look at the game itself and you think, we're not going to live to regret those. And speaking of Jota, to tie it back to your original point, they didn't have one of him. Nowhere within their squad. They had a lot of their better players back, but they didn't have a guy who could be lethal when needed. And he was lethal. I'm not having that first one was lucky, by the way, with the scuff shot. He's looking to put it in that direction. He may not necessarily be looking to put it at that pace, but if he does it the way he wants to do it, it's going in anyway. So I'm giving him that. And
absolutely.
I think you've got to acknowledge the fact that for the first goal, he saw Trent with the ball and then he knew what to do. And that telepathy is becoming really strong now. I think particularly against Arsenal, it seems like every time they play against Arsenal, one assists the other. But it's that thing that you miss where the familiarity of playing with Salah and Mane, everyone knows what they're going to do. Everyone knows what positions to be in. The centre-halves can find them. The midfielders can find them. We're getting that with Jota now. Everybody understands his game, what he wants to do, where he wants to be. So if we can have that connection with him as strongly as we've got it with some of the other guys, then this period where we're without those other guys, it's going to be a lot easier to deal with.
Just on firstly, the other guy's point as Mo makes there, Gareth. Liverpool only got to do one more game now in all likelihood. Maybe. They can't. All three of them can't be missing for the game against Cardiff because they can't all make the final. They might need a little bit of extra rest at the end, so there's a chance the home game against Leicester. But apart from that, Liverpool have sort of seen that period off now if they get a result against Palace. Parking that, and we'll talk about that in the later part when we talk about Palace. One of the things I think you see is Liverpool. What was said there by Mo, Liverpool just work Arsenal out. Are you going to try and fly into us and press us? Watch us turn. We're just going to turn away from you. Look, you think the ball's there, the ball's now over here, and we've got loads of space to move into. And I thought that within all of that, you saw the experience, but you also saw the idea that Liverpool train at this level. This is what we've been doing for years, lads. Yeah. You might have worked out how to do this recently. You might have started doing this recently. But this is how good we are. And you, as I say, you saw it best in Curtis Jones.
Yeah, the comfort on the ball was really obvious from Liverpool, wasn't it, last night? I mean, all the back four taking the ball in positions that to the naked eye look a bit hairy, like roll back sort of 10, 15 years and like we'd all be going, what are you doing? No, get rid. But they take it in that position and they're absolutely comfortable. And that includes the goalie as well. Kelleher is so comfortable with his feet. And, he gets a lot of praise for the save, and rightly so. But he's just not fazed at all by any of this. I mean, we're talking about Curtis. We're talking about him. Curtis isn't 21 until the end of the month. And there he is playing in a cup semi-final and hardly giving the ball away all game. I think he's got 91% pass completion from this game, which is absolutely brilliant. And look, it wasn't like some people might look at it and say, well, it wasn't spectacular from him. And I would say to them, well, the manager didn't want it to be. Exactly. He wants discipline from him. He wants him to look after the ball. He wants to do what you're saying, Neil, and cover space. He wants him to be intelligent. And I think Curtis has maybe struggled with that at times because he's like, lad, I've got all these tricks in my locker. I can bend it in the top bin. I can do Rabonas. I can do this, that, and the other. And like, we know that. And Klopp knows that. And he knows that. But that's not what he wants, though. He's got to fit the system. He's got to get used to the system, and he's got to be intelligent in the system. And I think we're seeing that from him more and more. And I felt a little bit sorry for him this season because, you roll back to the start of the season. He had that bizarre situation where he had to miss a game because he'd had a head injury. And that seemed to sort of knock him from day one. There was the Harvey Elliott getting in before he got in. I wondered personally about that, whether, how that did for his confidence a little bit, because maybe he was like, well, hang on, I was ahead of him. Where's that come from? Then he had this bizarre ISU situation. I think he's one of the ones that's had COVID as well. Yeah. And, it's just been very stop-start for him. It's probably not been the season he wanted or expected. And I remember writing something myself saying, it could be a bit of a breakthrough season for him. Well, it hasn't really been that. And here we are in the sort of the second half of the season, and you've got the manager going out publicly saying, well, I've had a word with him, and he's got loads of potential, but he's got to start showing it. I mean, that's a bit of a throwing down the gauntlet, to use the massive cliche. But he's responded last night. He's played really well, and Klopp snapped at something which maybe speaks about wider things with the media right now or whatever. But, he said, the reporter said something really innocuous, like, and you've brought Curtis in. He's like, I haven't brought him in. He was already in. Hello. But looking at it another way, maybe that's he's part of this. He is part of the squad. He's not like a kid who's getting a chance here and there. He's in my plans. He's part of this team. I'm happy to throw him out in a cup semi-final, demand a disciplined performance and get one from him. So, there's a lot of futures bright talk, I think, that comes out of this game as well, in terms of him, in terms of Kelleher. Trent's still only 23 years old. Gordon as well. I thought it was a little bit tough for him. But again, he'll learn from that. He was doing a lot of defensive work. He was tracking back. And he's another one, isn't he, where you know that he wants to be scoring goals, taking people on, being the winger. You can that's the type of player he is. But again, he's got to fit into what Liverpool do. But as you said, Liverpool so comfortable playing around Arsenal. And it was like, work your bollocks off, boys, but we can cope with that.
There's the other thing that comes off them, the idea, Siobhan, the manager's saying the dressing room's absolutely bouncing at the end there. There was a real feeling of togetherness, I thought, in amongst them all the way through. And none less than the actual celebration, not just for the goal, but for the fact that the goal was initially ruled out. And then it was a very, very intense sort of in front of the supporters celebration, the second one. I really, I'd love to have been in the ground for that, because often when the VAR goal's then given, everyone does, all the players have a little clap on the back and they say, well in and good goal and all that sort of stuff. They almost got in the end when it went 2-0, and it was fabulous. When it goes 2-0 confirmed from the video assistant referee, everyone was giving it the absolute big one. They knew the game was won. But they were all on top of each other, and you saw it at the end with the celebration as well. I thought the togetherness was just incredible.
That's one of those where, where there's an intervention by VAR, and it's one of those ones where you really enjoy getting to celebrate it twice because it's dead good. We've all got an inkling that it's all right, but it's so tight that you're all right if it's not all right. And then it happened. Sorry, my son has somehow managed to put the Anfield Wrap on my iPad next door, so I can hear you on another show in my earphones and hear you live now. So it's the most bizarre thing, and I'm so confused. Anyway, sorry. I thought that togetherness, though. I think that the way the tie's gone has led to that togetherness, because I think that they probably all felt that they'd let themselves and each other down after last week, and I think that going into today's, obviously, everyone's mood was lifted at the weekend against Brentford, and then going into today, I thought that yesterday, I thought that the goals were such team goals, and the performance was such a team performance that it's almost impossible to not kind of give each other props for it. I mean, the flick from Firmino, the pass from Trent for the first goal, that is as pure as you're going to see, isn't it? And the second goal is just such a moment, a flash of brilliance and a capitalisation on a mistake. And that togetherness, these lads, some of the newer lads, the lads who just scored both the goals, Minamino, Jones, this is their Kiev, this is their Madrid, this is their version of that, their first version of that. And all the kinds of senior pros are going, oh, great, you get a version of this now as well, and you get to do it, and we get to go to Wembley. We haven't done that together, I think there's just it's such a... It seems improbable before the match, but it's such a perfect kind of symphony of all the different bits coming together to create that sense of togetherness. And the fact that it's next month also makes a massive difference to me. It's that we haven't got to wait. We haven't got to wait for a tome of other games beforehand to enjoy this, and they probably feel the same. All the social media reactions afterwards, I've never seen them all jump on their Instagram so quick. On the back, they're made up. We're made up. They know we're made up. That end was obviously brilliant. A new song that's never not going to galvanise everyone, one that takes off so well as well. I just think that there were so many ingredients to create that sense of togetherness, and I think that we probably all had a bit of nervousness about whether that was going to happen without, I'm going to do a Pep Linders here, the three lads that have gone to AFCON, not the two lads that have gone to AFCON, the three lads. And, it didn't all go perfectly, certainly not last week, but isn't that the way to win a tie and the way to bring everyone together?
Just that last sort of bit on it, Mo, is looking ahead to that game at Wembley. The manager's going to have a couple of decisions to make, and what I mean by that is there's footballers who've got him there the goalkeeper's the obvious one, but he's not the only one. You know what I mean? He's going to have to pick a front three, hoping that everyone's healthy. So one of them misses out. Obviously, there's the 5 subs, so that's in there as well. But he's gonna have to pick a midfield. You know, there's footballers who played a part in this. Which I think is quite interesting. You know, it's been a squad effort, and I think it will remain a squad effort for the final. I think Liverpool will go really strong. But back to the togetherness. They'll all know we're all only here because Tyler Morton was great at Preston. We're all only here because all of this has come together for each and every one of us.
It is. It's very much the group effort, and something that I noticed that obviously no one else talked about or no one else noticed because it went right is Henderson comes off at 1-0. The game's not officially won yet.
Yeah.
So if it goes wrong, that's potentially a flashpoint. But as he came off, and we know that there's been times before when he's come off at that time and he's not been happy. I would notice that I watched him as he came off. Klopp gave him a hug and he said, "You all right?" And he said, "I'm okay." And the look on his face was, "I'm okay. Milner's on. He'll do my job."
Yeah.
And I think that is brought into that togetherness is that we are all needed for all of the games. All of us can be there at any point. We don't know. We might need to be ready. So you can feel disappointed if you didn't start, but how many Liverpool players have written their way into our history off the bench? So many. And that's a real thing that you can sell to these players. And we're not normally in all 4 competitions at the end of January either.
Absolutely.
That's something that's new. So I think anyone who feels like, oh, well, maybe I'm not in the first starting level. Like Joel Matip. Joel Matip got hooked at half time because he wasn't playing well. Like, again, in some other world, that could be a problem. But, I think the fact that it's Joel Matip means it probably won't be a problem. He's normally quite sound on these things. But Konate comes in, does the job that we ask of him. He's got another key moment under his belt. So everybody's feeling better about life. And I think that after the kind of nadir of popular opinion after probably the Chelsea City game, where everyone was like, okay, well, this season's not officially not going to be like we wanted it to. This is kind of a recalibrating of like, there's still loads to go. There's still loads to fight for. And all of us are going to be able to be involved.
They're going to beat Chelsea, aren't they, Robbo?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really surprised. I mean, obviously, I didn't come from this perspective, but I'm surprised that they're favourites. I don't really know what it's based on. They've been shite for ages. I feel like if we played them tomorrow, we played them off the park. I mean, I know we obviously only drew with them when we played them in the league, but I seen Rio Ferdinand saying, me and Mo were talking about it the other day. He was like, they're used to winning in finals, and Mo was like, but they lost one. As Rio forgot about that. So I was quite surprised.
I'll say, Robert, the Rio Ferdinand rule is the more emphatic he is about something, the more likely he is to be completely incorrect.
Yeah.
I just think as well, it feels a little bit unfinished business all round, really. It's 6 years, isn't it, since we've been to Wembley. The last time we went, we obviously didn't win. We don't want to do that again. It's really shit that going there and not winning. I'm sure Klopp wants to win now. They all want to win. And, what Siobhan said struck a chord with me as well in that, we spend a lot of time about the League Cup every season, it seems, talking about, is it any good? Is it worth our time and efforts? We want to win this and we want to win that and we're not that bothered about this, blah, 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 blah. But you never really see anything that evidences that from the players for me. They look made up to be in it. And, I heard Gerrard talking on an interview a while back and he talked about when he lifted the League Cup. And it was like, he was made up to lift the League Cup. He talked about it in a really positive way. It wasn't like, and when I just won that hard thing. They want to get to finals and they want to win things. And also as well, I want to see a cup with Liverpool ribbons on it paraded around Liverpool streets. I want to go out and see that. We missed out on that because of the pandemic when we won the league. And only the League Cup? Nah, I'm turning up with me well-in champions, Premier League champions, banner for the final. I'll finally get my chance if we win it. So, there's really, just feels all of a sudden now there's absolutely loads to be positive about, crest of a wave stuff. We've emerged from this sticky spot and we can now get excited about the final. And it's only next month. It's going to come around really quick. And I hope there's that like 2001 effect really where it starts to drip into everything else and there's a feel good and we get on one. Someone's just put in the comments there, do you think the league is beyond us? And look, the odds are mad. I think you can get about 12-1 for Liverpool to win the league right now. You can get 66, by the way, to 1 to win both cups in the Champions League. It's worth a quid, that, isn't it? Hey?
Winning the trophy in February can't hurt. It can't make players feel any less confident, can it? It can't make. Sorry, I've got a small guest next to me now. It can't make people feel any less confident. It can't make people feel any less galvanised. It can't make them think that felt good. Let's try and do it again and again and again. There's still things to get this season. I just think, I know it's improbable. I was very drunk on Sunday when I said that we were probably going to do it. I still believe in that, but I just don't think it can hurt.
It can't hurt. Excellent stuff indeed. Listen, coming up, we've got Gareth Roberts speaking to Nick Pettigrew about his book Anti-Social. I spoke to Kevin Day about everything that's been going on at Crystal Palace, and it is an awful lot that's been going on at Crystal Palace. Quite a turnaround at that club in terms of mood. That is available on TAW Live. If you're listening to TAW Live as a podcast, if you're with us on the live, thank you very much for the comments all the way through. They've been the absolute business so far. Everyone buzzing off last night. So right now, you're going to get Gareth and Nick, then you're going to get me and Kevin, and then we're going to be back on TAW Live, and now we're back on TAW Live. We've got a small guest with us. Hello there.
Sorry,
Marvellous
he insisted he's got some really strong opinions about Crystal Palace.
I bet he has.
And a snotty nose. I do wash him.
There's claims of occasional washes from time to time. We'll see if they actually bear out over the course of the next 10 minutes or so. To look ahead to Palace, and Mo, the point of this is, I often do the thing here where we go and watch the Liverpool team will be, and Palace are quite good and they play some good football, and they'll look to play against Liverpool. They'll look to be front foot. That's what they'll look to do. I think if you're Klopp, you're not far away from going very close to same again. Yeah. That maybe Gordon and Chamberlain if you can do it, but you almost just want to harness what you've just had. And it's not like they've got another game coming on Tuesday or Wednesday or anything like that. What they've got is then there's a big break. I think I do think it'll be as close to same again as he can manage.
I mean, if it was me, I'd be severely tempted to stay in London. Just keep that same vibe. Because, I mean,
like Phil Bundle.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that Mr. Phil's got something spot on, would it? But I mean, I think you're dead on in terms of being able to keep the momentum, keep the feel good factor from that game, and also remind everyone of what happened last time we went to Crystal Palace, because there's a lot of feel good around that as well. Yeah. Yes, fair enough, Salah's not around, but I mean, we still won 7-0, and I mean, Palace are going to remember that too. So this is a game that has been tricky in the past, and I think Palace will feel like they have the ammunition to be able to make it tricky again, but very similar situation to Arsenal. I think this game gets to a point where Palace realise that they can no longer win it, they can maybe draw it, and so they'd have to change accordingly. Once we get to that point, it becomes an easier game. And I think that will be the mindset we go into this game with. It'd be like, we're still playing well. We know that Palace can't get to this level. Let's go out and play our football, get to half-time, see where that gets us, and start to manage games in a way that we haven't done previously. I think that's going to be the plan.
The manager of the game, Gareth, for me, is the most important thing. Palace, the crowds will be up. It'll be a good crowd. They've played some good attacking football this season. Elise looks a player. Eze looks a player. Conor Gallagher really looks a player. I mean, he's, the shock of blonde hair as he bobs around the pitch adds to the lustre of the football that he plays. But what Liverpool have shown actually quietly against Brentford, maybe even to a certain extent in the first leg against Arsenal now in hindsight, and obviously that game against Arsenal in the second leg, is just a greater sense of control of the football match. And that's what I think we've been missing a little bit of. And for me, I'd love nothing more than another Liverpool clean sheet on Sunday, and I think there's every chance of one. They've got a certain game face on all of a sudden, I think.
Yeah, there's a steeliness about them, isn't there? There is a... we didn't talk too much about Trent there. I thought we'd maybe talk a little bit more about him, because I was going to say about him that I saw that I thought really in him, in that the way he played, it was such I'm getting this one, and I'm making sure I've played my part in getting this one. And there's something about the whole team that feels a little bit like that. Maybe he's been able to encourage a little bit of siege mentality. Maybe he's used some of the criticism, pinning up on the dressing room wall, all the old cliches, but just got to take task here with both a comment I've seen in the comments and something Mo said. There's still this feeling about Palace as though they've been an issue for us. We've won the last 9 against them. Yeah. We've won the last 6 away against them, and it was 7-0 last time we went there. I think we can safely say like without getting too carried away, because obviously like different team, different time, I get all, but
Different manager.
Different manager. We've got to start sort of saying, well, they're not actually. And like we can just go there and have a game of footy without there being that story around it.
I just meant that their fans are going to feel that because they're going to remember.
Yeah.
I didn't mean it from the perspective that we should be concerned, because you're right. Like, and I remember talking to you about this on many occasions. It's one of those things where it's almost like a Halloween ghost story where you go into it and then suddenly someone takes the lights on and you're like, oh, it's just an old fella in a mask. Like, this isn't hard at all.
But even like the sort of like, the story of Palace, and Neil will have got that from Kevin. Like, I'm sure they're a lot happier where they are now than watching Hodgeball all the time. And wouldn't anyone be? But equally, they've only won 6 games all season. So, that still doesn't sound like that much fun. And, you got the lads like scoring some great goals, but they're not scoring loads of goals. Liverpool are the top goal scorers in the league here. And okay, caveat about the lads who are away and all the rest of it. But
Jota's the second highest scorer in the country, Gareth.
Exactly.
He's the second highest scorer in the country.
Yeah, 14 goals and looking like he's absolutely on it. And the team looking like they're absolutely on it. I'm with you, Neil, that, I don't see us making a big raft of changes that are potentially options there. I'd like to know what's happening with Divi. I'm really keen to know where he is, and is he all right? Can someone go?
I reckon he's just focusing on his dissertation or something. Something. He's got. I genuinely think about that lad, and it's my favourite thing about him. I don't think playing for Liverpool is his big raison d'etre in life. I just don't think it is. I think he's like got some higher purpose, and I think that none of us really know anything about it, and that's the joy and that's the charm.
Yeah,
he could be doing absolutely anything. Siobhan, they should have too much. Gareth mentions their strength and the steely determination. I thought you saw it from Van Dijk. I thought you saw it from Fabinho. I thought you saw it from Henderson. Not that any of these players hit even their 8 out of 10 level, but what they were 7 and they were deadly serious. And I think that's what Liverpool are now. They're just going to be deadly serious.
Yeah, and I think that we've seen it from Fabinho all the way through. I don't think he's had a bad game in a while. I think he's been at least top 2 players in the last 4 or 5 games, but whichever ones he's played. But I think it's I think the fullbacks have had patchy performances in recent games. Obviously, Robertson had a couple of games out and things like that. But I thought that last night they were both absolutely fantastic. And in the last few games where it's been a bit graff because they've been doing the same thing over and over again and struggling to maybe unlock that, it's the right time for them to just without the lads. We need to stop talking about the lads that were without, because look at what the lads that were with did last night. I'm talking to myself here, by the way. This is an internal dialogue. This is what I do most days. Don't say that, Siobhan. But it's the right time for those two to be really, finding the feet and finding the form. I thought that Van Dijk last night, he had such a sense of about him, and that's his best bit, isn't it? It's when he just basically walks up to something. It doesn't even run. It doesn't even use his body. He just walks up and just goes, oh, you thought you were getting that? Oh no, sorry, you weren't. And I thought that Palace at Anfield earlier in the season were all right in parts, but certainly nothing to be afraid of. And I'm I think that we've all gone into a bit of a funk, and it just takes something to jog you out of it, and Brentford did that a little bit, but you kind of expected it to, and then last night it's just done it completely, and I think it'll be the same for the lads on the field as well. No one let themselves down last night, and I think that if we did the same again, absolutely fine by me. Absolutely
fine. I'll ask you for predictions. I think you're all going to be in the same place as me. Gareth, Liverpool win.
Yeah, Liverpool win. I reckon I'm going to say 3-0. The steely determination is going to mean that we get a clean sheet on the road again. And we've got plenty up front. Plenty of lads who fancy scoring a goal. And someone's just put there, by the way, Fabinho was super. He was absolutely brilliant. And that tackle on Martinelli was like a goal for me. I absolutely loved the way that foot just come from nowhere, and was like the lad looked like he was virtually celebrating. He was like, I'm talking this, where's that? Oh, hang on. And he was great. and apparently Fabinho's been going around in training saying I'm top goal scorer in January or something. So you never know. Might get a little thunderbolt from him as well. That'd be nice. But yeah, I absolutely think Liverpool will beat Crystal Palace.
You'll be on the pens in all likelihood. Mo.
Yeah, same for me. Unfortunately, I doubt we'll get to 7 this time, but I think it will be an equally comfortable and enjoyable victory. Palace will do what Palace do, but we'll have too much.
Siobhan?
I'm not interested in getting to 7 because if you remember last time it was like we ran out of goals for the next month or two after that. So 2's fine. 2's fine. We need the extra 5 for the upcoming games. I can't be arsed with that like death afterwards again. So yeah, don't use them all up. 2-0 will suit me fine.
Excellent stuff. Take that across the board. Marvellous. Brilliant from Liverpool against Crystal Palace. A final for everyone to look forward to. Supporters of any age, and we've had them across the course of the show, can very much get themselves ready and stuck in for the game against Chelsea that is coming up on the horizon as well. But in the meantime, there's still a league title to chase down for the mighty boys in red. That continues on Sunday. It doesn't take much to be going to the Etihad, only 5 points behind Manchester City. It really doesn't. And if Liverpool can aim for that and achieve that by the start of April, then all bets are off. It could be an absolutely fantastic run, and join us in all the different ways you can on the Anfield Wrap. Download the app, get stuck into everything there that you can do so for free if you haven't done already. It's been a pleasure, an absolute pleasure. What a fantastic Friday morning to share with Gareth Roberts, with Siobhan Began, with Mo Stewart, Nick Pettigrew and Kevin Day for chipping in as well. In the middle parts, if you've delved into that sort of thing, I am off because I believe in paradise by the dashboard light. See you later.